Okay, hey everyone, welcome back to the Tech Twins. I'm Mark,
I'm Andrew.
and today we have a special guest.
Should I introduce myself here? Or okay, yeah.
Please.
Hi, I'm Arpi.
Since we last uploaded, kind of a lot has happened. And if you're a student or if you're somebody who's interested in working in tech, we kind of thought, well, these are some pretty tough times. So what motivation can we provide for you while you're still studying and help provide some inspiration? Today, we're going to be talking tech with Arpi Park, who's a student at Stanford studying to go eventually work in the tech industry. And Mark and I, now that we now work at Microsoft in the tech industry, are going to have a long form conversation about technology and society and how this new world and this new virtual world is impacting both learning and working.
Yeah, so Arpi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Arpi Park. I'm a junior in Stanford undergrad studying Symbolic Systems.
Cool.
And I also have a YouTube channel. Sorry.
Nice. Yeah, I guess I can introduce myself as well. I'm Mark. I'm a recent college grad from UC Berkeley in engineering and business, and I'm currently a PM at Microsoft on the Surface team.
And I'm Andrew. I'm also a recent grad from UC Berkeley, engineering and business, and a PM at Microsoft. One of the things that I'm really curious about is when at least when I was in college, I felt like what I was studying and what I might kind of want to do in the future felt really far away. And I knew at the time that there was so much scale to what you would work on in the tech industry. For example, social media, the internet, cloud storage, medical devices, clean energy, all that type of stuff. And it seemed like it could be used as a way to accelerate something that you want to do in a positive way in a number of different areas. And so, Mark, my question to you is, what are some ways that you've seen this now that you've been working in the tech industry for a little bit? And Arpi, do you have the same question as a student, thinking through how to motivate yourself while you don't have these kind of hardworking peers around you?
Yeah, I can get started. In general, I feel like it's hard to connect your day-to-day work with the big picture things that you see in all these like glitzy videos that a lot of these companies make, or their announcements of their products like once or twice a year. But I do find myself going back to those, or maybe some examples of how what you're working on is helping a customer do something tangible in their lives easier or better, because I feel like it's important to keep that motivation. And yeah, it's especially hard like when you're working from home.
Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, it has been a little hard to just motivate myself to study. A couple of my friends have worked in tech before, specifically in software development, and just like seeing like the big structure of how these companies like have separate project teams, and then you have different products, and then as like a single software engineer you might work on like a little piece of this smaller piece of like the bigger picture. And it seems like just like a lot of like fine tuning, like Facebook for example. Their website has been, it's been around for a long time, but they just keep adding little new things to it. And I guess it has been a little hard for me to tie that in with like impact. It is an impact. It's a product people are using. Yeah, but sometimes I wonder if there's a way I can have a bit more, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, how are you thinking about like what specific type of stuff you're interested in? Because as you said, like if you pick a company that you're interested in, you're gonna be in a particular like sub part of that company, like an organization or a project team. And then it seems like these tech companies, they're working on everything these days, like healthcare, Andrew said, clean energy,
Right.
devices, all that type of stuff. Like, how do you think about what you would want to work on, maybe through an internship or full-time, maybe?
Yeah, I guess that's a part of the tough part, just like the options paralysis. It's just so many places you can go with. I mean, just tech in general, I guess. Um, so yeah, I'm not really sure how I'm going to decide. I guess I have like just my general interests, like before I went to school and whatnot. But now that I'm in school, everything just sounds really cool. Just like,
Don't need to know. Right now, you're still in college.
did you know when you were still an undergrad? Would you say?
Mm, I think I resonate with that point that you said about remembering what you were interested in before you had all these options,
Mhm.
because I think that's probably the real interests. Like when I was in high school, I was interested in sustainability, and then I did have an interest in devices. Like I remember in high school, I was really inspired by some of these product release videos that
Mhm.
hardware companies would make. And I just thought, wouldn't it be so cool if one day I could go and work on these products? But I didn't really have a specific technical area of interest other than mechanical engineering in general and hardware development. Like it was just like, well, I really like the impact that can be made by hardware products, and I want to make sure that I'm kind of able to contribute to that space, because I feel like it's a really good way to make a positive impact by making these devices that can be kind of platforms for what other people want to do.
The like the product videos, you like the Surface Duo announcement or like stuff like that with the cool
Yeah,
music and the
things
3D
like that.
rendering.
A little bit different though, like more like the manufacturing ones, the ones that would
Oh, okay.
that would show you how a device is made. And I think for somebody who is not exposed to engineering, and like if you don't grow up in Seattle or Silicon Valley, you might not ever even know what goes into these products. And so it was really revealing for me. And of course, even those videos were marketing videos, so
Mhm.
they were kind of not really everything. But yeah, in high school, I was interested in that, and I felt like that really was part of like a strong part of my motivation for continuing to like try to get experience in the hardware development industry throughout college, and then now full time. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I would say pretty similar. Um, so like my brother and I, we didn't even know we were going to study engineering until closer to the end of high school because we did a summer program. And so I feel like that exposure was super important. Um, and also those videos online about these companies making these hardware products, that's another way that I feel like I got exposed to engineering just in general. And I was thinking to myself, okay, this is a skill set. If I learn this skill set, then I can figure it out later what I want to apply it to. And so that kind of, it was honestly being pretty naive about what this whole tech stuff is all about, and just saying, okay, this is pretty interesting. Let me go get this skill set, and then from there probably I'll get more insight into how I can use it.
Mm.
And then just along the way, trying to align that with my values, and I want to work for a company that's doing something that I think is making a positive impact in the world, or is doing something interesting in a way that I think is a good way of doing something. So like being ethical, focusing on leaving the world better than you found it, those types of things. I feel like those are more of the factors that have influenced my decisions of like where I want to work and what type of work I want to do. But I still feel like when you're young, you mainly want to be getting skills. And so I feel really fortunate that I've been able to do that in a place that also like aligns with my higher level interests.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's still open though what I want to do in the future. Yeah, cool. So another thing that I was wondering is typically the tech industry can seem pretty hard to get into if you're not that close to it, because like studying engineering is pretty difficult. Getting into those undergrad programs is difficult. Then you go through all these interviews that are sometimes like 6 7 interviews, and then once you get to the job you're also compared to all the other people who are there. And so maybe Arpi, from your experience and what you've seen with your peers, how do you think people who are kind of first developing this interest in technology can start getting involved, so that they can contribute to these innovations that we're seeing about in the news?
Yeah, I guess just in my experience, it just does look really tough. Um, I'd say, I mean, what I would tell myself if I were, you know, a bit younger, I say as I'm 20 years old, but a couple years ago, just to get a bit of a head start, I guess, because it is quite intense, just like the timeline of if you want to work in tech right out of undergrad, then you do sort of have to line up these internships and things early on, and then build to other internships to eventually get the offers. So yeah, I mean, if people are interested, I'd say just, I mean, I'm not really sure if I'm in a place to give advice on this because I'm not very employed in tech, but from what I've seen, it's just helpful to just put yourself out there early. Um, start thinking about things ahead of time, and then it'll pay off.
Arpi, you study symbolic systems. So quick like side question before we get to the next question. What is that major, and do you feel like it is preparing you well for the kind of the interest that you have? Because I think the next question that I want to ask is a lot of people are skeptical about the tech industry and how is it really the solution to a lot of people-based problems. And so I think it's interesting that what you're studying is not just a technical field, but something that has multiple dimensions to it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just an undergrad, and there's like a lot of faculty in SimSys who could probably explain this better than me. But I think at its core, SimSys is just sort of about cognitive science, and that's really multifaceted. So, there's neuroscience, psychology, but cognitive science also relates to how you can make a computer think, and it's just like it's an interdisciplinary major surrounding questions like like AI, artificial intelligence, um, as well as some like more philosophy behind artificial intelligence. I think a lot of people, when they think AI, just think about the big data sets and all the things that AI researchers do and their methodology. But that's not the only methodology, and that's also not the only thought that goes behind like creating what you could call thinking machines and whatnot. So I guess at a higher level stuff, it's a lot of CS for sure, but you also have to think a lot about like linguistics, human computer interaction, philosophy, neuroscience, psychology, things like that. And relating to your point about like tech, is it revolving around people anymore? Like, have we sort of lost sight of what we're doing with all this fancy technology? I think one thing that's really cool about SimSys is they recently added even more concentrations, and one of them is called human-centered AI. So like you'll take classes about like I don't know if you've read the book Algorithms of Oppression, but like ethics surrounding where we're taking technology in the future. So if you were to make an artificial intelligence, how can you make sure it's like a good person? Or how do you make sure it represents, people in general and not just wealthy, educated people or things like that? Um, so I think that's one really cool thing about my program, not to be gushing about what I'm studying, but I think it's possible to take an approach to technology and just the sciences and whatnot in a more human-centered way. And yeah, I don't think we've quite lost sight of that yet. I don't think it's quite as doomsday as some people may think.
Do you think that if there are more students who go through a more interdisciplinary training, and then those students go to the tables where decisions are made about, like when you build this app, what type of user are you targeting? What specific monetization model are you going to choose? Do you think that more interdisciplinary training will help give you a more nuanced view about how to make those decisions in ways that are just more considerate of how that technology would be received by the users?
Yeah, I think for just like the individual working in these things, I think it is helpful to just have some experience thinking about how it relates to society, just like the bigger picture stuff. I don't think that like engineering programs are bad for not requiring you to take like multiple ethics classes. Um, but I do think it'd probably be helpful to have someone in the room who has thought about these things. Yeah, I don't think every single person, I mean, it'd be nice if every single person did take some time to think about the stuff behind what they're doing. But um, yeah, I mean, there are people out there who get degrees in specifically like the ethics of computer science and technology and whatnot. And I don't think you have to have a degree in that as long as you stay up to date and inform yourself. I think that's probably fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. Being like more explicit about this topic, there's a number of people out there that are very skeptical about the tech industry. And
Mm.
the if technology can really solve all of our problems, many of these problems are human problems, like loneliness with our elderly population, increasing inequality economically around the world, things like that. What would you say to those people? Because I guess just to give my perspective, I think just because there are problems out there that are human problems, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to make something with technology,
Mm.
even though there might be unintended consequences. But I'm curious what you think, Arpi.
Yeah, I think, I mean, technology is a tool, I guess, like some like definitions wise. Um, and I think like people might have detached that understanding of like technology as just a progression of like the tools we have to, solve problems. And I think they might attach it to what they see, like the big companies in quote unquote tech. Um, but I imagine the big tech companies started out in a similar way where they had, oh, what if like they identified some sort of problem or some sort of pain point in people's lives, like social media, and they used like the emerging sciences and what the findings to sort of find a way to best implement it. And I think just that spirit has nothing inherently wrong with it. So um, I think technology itself is not some bad word. I think that borders on just juvenoia and just being afraid of new things. I think it's inevitable that technology will progress. So I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with technology. I think where people's like problems with tech come from is, I imagine, just like the administrative stuff, like what we were just talking about. People at these companies not asking enough questions or not thinking enough before pushing these new products to people. Um, yeah, I'm not too like learned on like depression in the age of social media or the loneliness epidemic and whatnot, but um, like, okay, so coronavirus right now, if there weren't technology, it'd be even lonelier. So I think, uh, how do I put this? Like, yeah, I think it's not technology's fault that people got lonelier or there are these problems socially. It's more the administrative stuff of people creating and pushing this technology. But in a global pandemic, without Zoom or without cell phones and everything, um, it would be much worse. For me personally. Um, so I think some social problems technology does make sense to help, and the side effects are not directly tied to technology itself. But on like the inequality thing, yeah, I think that's definitely very true. Just just like going around Silicon Valley and seeing so much gentrification and such clear disparity between these new things and the wealth that it brings. Um, yeah, I'm not really sure how to tackle that either. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that part. But I think technology does have a lot of potential to help people.
Yeah,
Sorry about
I
that
think
spiel.
I loved it. One of the things that I'd advise to maybe young students is that if you're interested, then just try to learn, because as RP said, it's a tool. Like whatever engineering field that you learn, it's ultimately a tool. It's almost like you're learning a new language because you're now able to communicate with people who you weren't able to maybe understand or communicate with before. And so try to get a seat at the table with that knowledge to be able to contribute your perspectives to when maybe some decisions are being made that matter to you. And then also I heard like don't belittle the value of other fields outside of technical ones and also the value of people's like human experiences. And while it's great to have a skill set and an ability to build something, ultimately I think like we're all trying to do our parts to improve the world. And like I think that that ultimately comes from understanding who the people are that are kind of on the world right now. And so that requires a certain level of whatever you want to call it, like empathy or just curiosity about other people's experiences. I think that's what a lot of people who study engineering want to do, right? They know it's hard, but they know that the payoff is that they'll be able to do something that will benefit others or will maybe make a positive impact eventually, even if it's in a research lab and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with all those points. That's kind of all we had prepared. Do you have any questions for us or other topics that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that was quite summed up well. Yeah, I think just back to learning tech, I think everyone should, at least take some effort to learn about it. That way we have more voices in where the world is going in the future, like you mentioned, Andrew. Yeah, I mean, that's I thought I
Yeah,
don't have anything else to add.
there's a lot of paths, like Arpi mentioned, like summer programs for people from various backgrounds. You could go through directly from high school to college. You could go to community college. You probably could go through like a technical training boot camp. And so yeah, just don't discount yourself, I would say.
Yeah, and you could even just take like free classes online or just watch YouTube and, learn stuff.
Yeah, love YouTube.
YouTube's great.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, thanks Arpi for your time. This
Thanks
was
for
super
having me.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
super interesting conversation and interesting to hear your thoughts since you're still a student. But now it's online and COVID and all that stuff has changed a lot of things. I guess maybe one final question with this whole like remote everything experience, how has that changed how you think about using what you're learning in tech? Do you have any like interest areas given the way that the world has changed this year?
Yeah, I guess I've just relating to just the working world. I imagine moving forward after this, that just like a lot more working from home, a lot more of like video conferences will be a thing. Um, yeah, I guess while I've been at home isolated from everything except technology, just like my computer and my phone, I think I've begun to appreciate a bit more just how much it enables us to do things. So like going back to technology as a tool, yeah, I think it's cool that while we're all at home, we can still sort of do the same things, albeit in maybe not as fun of a way. But I think it speaks to the point that tech sort of is the future, simply because it's what we have and it's what we can use just in whatever we want to do.
Cool. And I think that's a really awesome point to end on. So yeah, thanks Arpi for coming on our channel.